Hey guys, it's Loan Officer Linda here, and in this video, I'm going to go into a little bit more depth on exactly what goes into your credit score and how that is calculated. In a separate video, I went over what is credit, what goes on the blanket term for it essentially. What is your credit score? What is your credit report? Credit is essentially money that you are borrowing and promising to repay it. So how do they determine your credit worthiness? Well, credit is going to be based on a number system. And they range from 300 to about 850. There are three different bureaus: Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. They're going to be separate companies, and each company is going to have a different credit rating system on how they measure you. However, it's generally the same. If the credit score is high, it shows that you are likely to be trusted. You are more likely to be trusted that if I were to let you borrow this money, that you would pay it back with interest. And then what exactly affects your credit score? How do they measure that 300 to 850? Well, the big one is going to be your payment history. That about 35% of that affects your credit score. If you were to borrow $1,000 and the minimum payment was $30, and if you paid that every month, you wouldn't be late. Well, are you late? Are you missing a payment, or are you paying your debt on time? So that payment history is going to have probably the biggest effect, because just like everybody else, if I'm going to let you borrow this money and you are late paying me, then that's going to affect my bills as well. Second biggest impact they have is going to be your amounts owed. If you owe that $1,000 and you've only been given $1,000, you're maxed out at $950 and you're making that minimum payment, then that affects it. How much you owe versus the credit that you have been given, the credit limit that you have been given, affects your credit, the second amount. Length of credit is going to be the third one. So the length of credit history that you have. Think of it as, again, we fall back on the trust system. It can take you a long time to build up trust with somebody, and it'll be super fast to lose that trust. So if you have a history of making good payments on time, you borrow money, you pay it back, and you've been doing this for years, then that's going to impact your credit, because now you have a history of good payments. Vice versa. Like I said, it can take a long time to build up good credit, but you can make one mistake and that credit will plummet. Why is that? It's a trust system. Just like any family member, friends, lovers, you can build that trust over a long period of time, and you can do one thing to hurt that trust, and now their trust in you has gone down. So that's why length of credit history is super important, because they can measure somebody for a year and they're not going to look at them the same way as somebody who's, you can be making good payments for a year, but they're not going to look at it the same as somebody who's been making great payments for 10 years, 20 years, etc. Now, on the flip side, let's say you have had one mark against your credit. You've had great credit and you just forgot. You forgot to make a payment that month, and that's going to have less impact on you, believe it or not, if you've had great history for 20 years and you made one or two mistakes, as opposed to somebody who's had great credit history, payment history for a year, and they make that one payment. They're going to look at it a little bit differently, aren't they? Right? So types of credit and credit inquiries are tied. I would actually argue to say that credit inquiries have the least amount of impact on your credit than types of history. So types of credit, we're going to go into that in another video on what do you mean by types of credit? How are they different? Types of credit is going to be how you're getting that debt and how you're paying it back. Credit inquiries are going to have the least amount of impact for you. As a mortgage loan originator, I get a lot of people, they don't want me to pull their credit because it'll impact their score. To be fair, it only impacts your score minimally, couple of points, and then it falls off, that impact falls off after 90 days and you get those scores back because you're only asking for credit. You're not actually opening any credit. When you go to open credit now, that length of credit is averaged out over your accounts, and then you would have had your payment history, same thing. Payment history, length of credit, it kind of shortens because they're taking the average. So I would argue to say that credit inquiries are going to have the least amount of impact. However, if you have any questions and you want me to assess your credit for your ability to qualify for a home mortgage, give me a call. 702-574-1877 and click that like and subscribe button so that I can continue to do these types of videos for you guys. We'll see you in the next video, guys. Have a wonderful day.